Hey everyone, today I've got the Imitation Game movie review. An English mathematician gets a small group together to break the Enigma code during World War II. And what is the Enigma code, you ask? It has to do with a machine that has these cryptic messages from the Germans, and it may be a little bit complicated for my taste, but I still wanted to know if cracking the code was even possible. So as far as the story goes, this movie seemed like a good idea at the time because it talked about cracking an unbreakable code that the Germans set up, and it was all up to Benedict Cumberbatch to round up the best code breakers around. And at first it was slow moving, but once you get the whole concept down, and even though some things were hard to follow at first, but then you slowly start to see that things start to make sense. Now, you don't have to be familiar with numbers to understand this movie, but if you love crossword puzzles, you might just get recruited for the code breaking job. You had to finish it under 6 minutes, and that is just crazy. This movie definitely had a huge cast of pretty well-known actors, and I always say this, but it is the best of British here. You've got Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays the brilliant Alan Turing, where he knows that he can win the war by cracking the German code, but not everyone believes he can do this task. I'm sure if he took some skeletons out of his closet, he can focus on what's really at stake. And it was intense just to see how far he would go to keep cracking the code. And it wasn't an easy job because it kept on resetting the code, and they would always have like a timer go off, so they know that it obviously wasn't an easy job because they had to keep resetting the clock. They had to keep waiting for another code to come in so they can crack it, and they only had a limited number of times to do this. And they were even debating how long it was going to take, and they were doubting that it would not even be possible, and it would take eons basically to crack the code. So that's why they had to get the best team around to do this. Now, Benedict Cumberbatch, he does have a similar facade that he did to Sherlock Holmes. I definitely compared him a lot in this movie, and I didn't think I would want to compare the two characters, but he was just funny and nerdy all at the same time, and then you would see him get serious and really emotional at other times, and you would see his frustration and dedication in his eyes, and no one could help him more than Keira Knightley. Personally, she's been getting a lot of award nominations for her role, and at first I was, before seeing this movie and seeing what she can do with her character, I was trying to see what was so great about her, because I'm not a huge fan of hers, but in this movie she was definitely pretty interesting to watch, and I felt like she was very good in her role, and she represented someone who wasn't taken seriously at first, but then was around to help Benedict Cumberbatch with the code breaking, and of course she was being treated as far as gender goes, because she was the only woman involved, and I didn't think that there was going to be any romance in the film, but with such great actors, who could resist? You've got other great performances by Matthew Good and Mark Strong, who the latter reteams with Benedict Cumberbatch since Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which was also a really great British movie, but one of those movies where you kind of have to watch it a couple times before it's easier to follow. There were some things I did like about this movie. It showcases the story of a man who has a rough childhood in the beginning, and growing up, he has to come to terms with it, and he wants to work in secret, and he knows that, that something is definitely up his sleeves, and he'll work to the point where the authorities get involved, and you're hoping that his dream is kept alive so no one will mess with it. And seriously, who would want to mess with Benedict Cumberbatch anyway? He was Khan in Star Trek. Unfortunately, there was some dislike to this movie. Though I found this movie to be great and worthy of Oscars, it was a bit dragged on, and I wouldn't say it was the greatest movie that I've seen this year. I just couldn't get into it some of the time, but it was slow paced at first, like I said, but then as soon as the movie like goes on, you start to see like what's all happening. So overall, I would say that The Imitation Game is a pretty decent movie. It's good, but not great. So I would definitely recommend checking this out regardless, because it's one of those movies that you could watch over and over again to get into it. So I would give this 3.5 hearts on the heart rate scale. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of The Imitation Game. And as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates, come back every week for a Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you guys later.